No, you look great, honey. You look great.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah, great. You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay. Do I start?
Hey guys, happy Saturday. Welcome to the first episode of 32 and 32. I am Jen Polvogt, and my co-host is my husband, Nate Polvogt, and we are super excited to bring you all 32 teams in 32 minutes. We know your time is valuable, so we want to get your fantasy relevant guys in place for you this week and talk about some starts, some sits, and some question marks.
Yeah, I'm Nate. I'm the other half. Not the better half. That's definitely Jen for sure. She's smarter than me and she's prettier than me. So yeah, we're excited, man. We've been waiting a while to do this. We've been talking about it for years. You know, and we're not gonna drop a bunch of stats on you. We know that that's probably not a part of what you're looking for here. We're gonna tell you who to start, who to sit. We're gonna give you a little bit of reason why, and then you can move on with your day and let's get to winning some championships.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, time is valuable. Let's jump into this. First up, we are going to be talking about Philly at Atlanta. We're interested to see what Jalen Hurts is going to do in his first start of the season for the Eagles. He's obviously the undisputed starter. He'll be okay in a super flex role, but not as your QB1. If he's your only QB, I guess go ahead and start him. But otherwise, pivot in a different direction. We're in on Devontae Smith, but keep Jalen Reagor on the bench. If you have Miles Sanders, you're obviously going to be starting him in your running back position because you probably drafted him in the first 3 rounds. So start him. And we really don't know what to make of the Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert situation just yet. But go ahead and start Goddard if you have to. But Zach Ertz is a sit this week.
Yeah, that's an interesting situation. One of the more confusing tight end situations, I think, right now in the league.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know who the tight end one is in that system. We're going to find out. It's listed as Dallas Goedert right now. But I think Ertz ends up taking that role over. But, you know, in the next 2-3 weeks, we'll see what happens.
Yep.
So now we're going to move on to the Atlanta half of this game. There's a lot to like here. Matt Ryan is definitely a start. Calvin Ridley is a start. Mike Davis is a great flex play, potentially with some RB1 upside this week. I'm not concerned. We're not concerned about Wayne Gallman, the addition of Wayne Gallman. I don't think he factors in much to what Davis is going to do. Russell Gage, real safe flex play this week. I like his upside. And then Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is a wide receiver classified as a tight end. So you're essentially getting an extra wide receiver when you start him. Fire him up, especially against this weak Philly defense. There's a lot to like in Atlanta this week.
Absolutely. All right, moving on to Pittsburgh at Buffalo. Don't start Big Ben unless you have to, period. Najee Harris is a smash play. Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool are your solid wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 starts this week. Juju Smith-Schuster is a decent flex option for you if you've got him. I would probably stay away from Ebron if you can. We love Pat Freiermuth, but as a true rookie tight end, not named Kyle Pitts, we're gonna wait and see on him. It's just a little too early so far.
Yeah, and I think he's going to have some major upside in this offense. I just don't think it's going to be week 1. There are a couple of places I absolutely had to start him. I didn't have another option. So if you have to start him, you're going to get probably 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points out of him. Don't expect anything big.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, I mean, all of these guys are guys that I'm probably feeling good playing, even though Buffalo has a pretty decent defense. You know, Pittsburgh always seems to put it together.
Yeah.
And then on the Buffalo side, obviously you're starting Josh Allen. You're starting Stephon Diggs.
Obviously.
That's just a given. The running back situation here is a little bit complicated. I'm probably starting Devin Singletary as a flex. If I need to start one of these running backs, I'm benching Zach Moss. He just doesn't get used outside of in between the 20s.
Right.
So, that could change this season. But for right now, down on Moss, keep him on your bench. Dalton Knox is a sneaky tight end play. He could pay off if he gets a touchdown. He's going to be dependent on a touchdown, but Allen does like him in the red zone. We'll see what happens there. I'm not excited about the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 options in this offense. Gabe Davis, I think, has some upside, but we're going to have to wait and see on him.
Yeah.
If you drafted him, you got him at the very back end of your drafts. You shouldn't need to play him this week, and I wouldn't do it. Pittsburgh has a pretty good defense. So same thing with Emmanuel Sanders. He's a guy that you should probably have on your bench if you rostered him. Chances are you don't have him on your roster. Pay attention to him, though. He could be a good waiver wire ad later in the season. And if it comes down to that, we'll definitely be talking about that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, next up, we have the New York Jets at Carolina. Stay away from the Jets. I mean, in general, altogether, but definitely for this week. Not that Carolina has a good defense, but there will be growing pains for Zach Wilson. Backfield is led by Tevin Coleman. No thank you on that. And then, call us when Ty Johnson takes over. Because of Wilson, we're out on the entire receiving core this week. Mims, Davis, Moore, the whole lot. I mean, just scratch any Jets player you have, leave them on your bench, and let's look at them again next week.
Yeah, which is a shame. I was really hot on Corey Davis, and I thought Tennessee was
Everyone
keep him.
was, yeah.
And when they let him go, I was really kind of bummed. He started to look great. And now he's in an offense with, like we said, Zach Wilson. And historically, BYU quarterbacks aren't great in the NFL. We haven't really seen a good one since Steve Young. I mean, you can argue Taysom Hill, but we all see what Taysom Hill is. So I really need to see Zach Wilson in this offense play well before I'm willing to start him. I need to see what the distribution is going to be with these wide receivers. Yeah. Denzel Mims is a guy everybody was hot on. He's listed as a wide receiver 4 in their depth chart right now. Elijah Moore, he's a rookie. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that backfield, like you said, it's a mess.
Yeah. Let's move on to Carolina.
Yes. So what I am excited about this week is Carolina in this matchup. Love Sam Darnold. Want to see what he can do in a new system. Expectations are kind of tempered for him. I'm not starting him this week unless I absolutely have to. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey. You're playing him because if you have him, you probably took him with your first pick. You're not going to bench your first pick. DJ Moore could have a big day, as could Robbie Anderson. Don't forget that Darnold and Anderson are familiar with each other from their days in New York. Also, don't forget, this is kind of a revenge game for Sam Darnold. So if you do start him, he could go off. Outside of that, I mean, Dan Arnold, tight end, no. Chances that anyone has him rostered are slim to none. So,
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Let's talk about Minnesota Vikings at the Cincinnati Bengals. Go ahead and start Kirk Cousins because if you have him, you have to. He provides high upside, especially against the mediocre Cincinnati defense. Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson are starts as well. If you have them, you're going to be starting them. And then obviously Dalvin Cook, Tyler Conklin. He has some upside at tight end with Irv Smith out right now. So go ahead and, I mean, Tyler Conklin, okay. But if you have another option, I would definitely choose somebody else.
Yeah, I would take Tyler Conklin over Pat Freiermuth this week if I could, but
yeah,
I don't have Tyler Conklin. So.
I don't have Tyler Conklin either, but yes, I would too.
Yeah.
I mean, Freiermuth was going so late anyways, like all these rookies, man, like we're just going to have to wait and see this first week. I mean, they're obvious starts, but the rookie class is still up in the air.
Yep. And now, as Bill Belichick would say, on to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So I'm a little nervous. I think we're both a little nervous about rolling out Burrow this week.
Yeah.
But no risk, no reward. There's got to be some nerves from that knee injury. His knee was like literally just torn apart from all sides last season. That offensive line isn't much better than it was last year. But they're going to be throwing the ball a ton. So, as long as he stays on the field, I think Burrow is a start. Joe Mixon is someone that you drafted early. Yeah. So regardless of what we say, you're going to be starting him as you should with the draft capital you have in him. Start him. By week 4, you might not be starting him anymore because he might not still be on the field. But, that's a week 4 problem, not a week 1 problem.
Right.
As far as the wide receiver room goes, if you have any shares of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, or Tyler Boyd, start them. Like I said earlier, Cincinnati's going to be throwing the ball a lot. That's just their offense. I think now we're on to San Francisco and Detroit.
Yeah. So be willing to start. I mean, flex. Do not start. Definitely do not start. Oh, we're going to have to edit that out. Okay. So San Francisco and Detroit. Be willing to flex Jimmy Garoppolo if you have to. I mean, I've got him in a couple of leagues. He was, later round pickup. Like, I don't want to. He hasn't had a good history there in San Francisco, but Stay away from the backfield in San Francisco unless it's Mostert this week. If you've got him, go ahead and start him. Also, go ahead and start Deebo Samuel and Ayuk, and then obviously Kittle, because everyone who has Kittle is starting Kittle.
Yeah, again, he's
George Kittle.
George Kittle. He's a guy you picked up in the first 3 rounds, so you're definitely starting him.
Probably first 2 rounds.
First 2 rounds, more,
honestly,
if not the first round, depending on tight end premium and such.
Yeah,
yeah, and I'm confident with Deebo and Ayuk this week. Again, it's a situation where we might not love Jimmy G as quarterback, but you have to throw the ball to somebody, and those are going to be his 3 targets.
Yep.
And I know it's tempting. I know a lot of people are talking about Trey Sermon and what his impact's going to be. Don't start him week 1 because he's not going to be the guy week 1.
Nope.
He's just not going to be. And then when it comes to Detroit, I think we can all agree, stay away from Jared Goff. Flex him if you have to, but try not to if you can avoid it.
Yep.
San Francisco's got a pretty decent defense. I think that Goff's going to have problems. Same with DeAndre Swift. I'm off of him this week.
Yep, me too.
He really hasn't practiced enough to feel like he's going to be relevant. And that coaching staff really seems to like Jamal Williams. He's the guy I'm starting this week out of that backfield. He's the guy that we should all be starting out of that backfield this week.
Yeah.
And really the only wide receiver in that system you should be starting right now is Tyrell Williams. I mean, Amon-Ra has some upside. Quintus Cephas has some upside.
Rookie, that's 2. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think this is the week to start rolling those guys out. Now we're going to move on to one of the ugliest matchups this week with Jacksonville and Houston. I'm going to start off talking about Jacksonville. I'll let you
go
have
for
Houston.
It. Yeah, whatever.
It's a terrible game. It's a terrible game. Jacksonville is sexy with all of their rookies and, some of the skill position players they have, and obviously Trevor Lawrence. But this is week 1 with a new quarterback, of course, new coach, new coaching system. You're definitely starting James Robinson here with Etienne out. I mean, he's the undisputed RB1. Not worried about Carlos Hyde at all. DJ Chark and Marvin Jones Jr. good options for flex, but if you can start someone else over those 2, I would. Laviska Shenault is probably the guy at the highest upside in that wide receiver core because he's going to be taking over some of the Etienne work where some of the gadget plays and maybe, some jet sweeps and stuff like that. So he's going to have rushing upside as well as receiving upside. Trevor Lawrence is a no-go for me. He's a rookie and we know he's phenomenal first pick in the draft. I need to see what he does in this offense and what this offense is really going to be before he's my QB1.
What if he is your QB1 though?
Well, then you have to start him.
Obviously. But a lot of people did take him as their QB1.
A lot of people did take them as their QB1. And if you've got him as your QB1, I mean, obviously you have to start him.
No risk, no reward.
No risk, no reward. That's very true. If you have someone else as your QB1, I would start them. But, I mean, you might have to go to him.
Yep. Okay. And then as far as Houston goes, the running back situation there is just a mess. I mean, we have no idea who'll get the majority of touches. So we're going to be completely hands off here. The only Texans player that we're even willing to touch this week is probably going to be Brandon Cooks. They have to throw the ball to someone and most likely it will be him. So if you have any of the 4 Houston running backs on your roster, I'd say let them sit. Let them ride. Let's see what they do this first week. And then we can talk about guys like Phillip Lindsay next week.
Yep. Phillip Lindsay and Rex Burkhead is a guy that we may be talking about in the future.
Yep.
All right. So now we're off to Seattle and Indianapolis. And this is a pretty easy one, I think.
Well, yeah. In Indy, you're going to be hands off with Wentz. Obviously, we need to see proof that he has improved, that he's in a better system, that this system is going to work for him. Nyheim Hines, if you've got him, is a nice flex play this week. And we're going to roll out Michael Pittman as well. And I think that this is going to be a good matchup for both of those guys.
Yeah, the tight end situation there is a mess. So we're not even going to talk about it. Not necessarily a mess, but it's a loaded tight end room. And we're going to have to see how much Wentz actually uses his tight end. We know how much he loved Zach Ertz in Philly. Yep. So there's a chance that one of these guys could take off. I just don't see it for now. But yeah, I mean, Pittman really is the guy at wide receiver. I need to see Paris Campbell on the field a little bit more. I need to see how he comes back from 2 years of being injured. So we'll, it's all wait and see. With T.Y. Hilton out, though, I think Pittman is a wide receiver 1 there. Now, when it comes to Seattle, again, this is a pretty easy one.
Yeah.
Chris Carson is a guy you're starting.
Yep.
I like him
DK.
against this Indy defense. DK Metcalf,
Metcalf.
no brainer. So is Tyler Lockett. These are guys that you are, if you have them, you are starting them.
Yes.
Russell Wilson, obviously, you're starting Russell Wilson if you have him.
Yes.
The only real question I think here is Gerald Everett.
Mm-hmm.
If you're feeling confident that Gerald Everett is going to take over that like Jimmy Graham type role as tight end, roll him out there.
Yep.
I don't know that it's going to be a week one thing, but it could be a week one thing. Russell Wilson likes tight ends when he has quality. He hasn't had that quality in a while. He does now.
Right.
I'm excited about Gerald Everett's upside in this offense.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we will see.
Okay, Arizona at Tennessee. Kyler Murray, quarterback. Obviously, you're starting him. You probably picked him up in your first round. DeAndre Hopkins, obviously, you're going to be starting him as well. Outside of that, you're probably not going to be starting anyone in that offense this week if you can avoid it. We want to see how James Conner and Chase Edmonds split carries and how Rondale Moore and Christian Kirk are used. And then AJ Green, non-starter, so stay away from him. But if you've got any of those other guys, they'd probably be okay starts for you. They're not probably going to bring in those big points, those big plays.
Yeah, I mean, again, sometimes you have to start some of these guys.
Yeah.
I'm borderline okay with Rondale Moore. I think that Kyler Murray is going to love Rondale Moore, his speed, something that we haven't seen in that offense with Kyler Murray. Christian Kirk, I loved, but I can't. I think Rondale Moore is going to steal a lot from him, a lot of touches from him. And AJ Green's AJ Green. We're going to have to see. If he can stay on the field, there's a chance that he's a good flex play later in the season. But we're going to have to wait and see. Now, when it comes to Tennessee, you're probably Ryan Tannehill's probably your QB1. That's where he was going. So you're going to definitely want to start him in your super flex and in your 1 QB leagues. He's a guy that's going to be starting for you. Same thing with Derrick Henry, AJ Brown, Julio Jones.
Obviously.
These are
Julio. I'm super excited to see how Julio plays in this new system, this new team. I'm excited.
Well, what's going to be interesting to me is between Brown and Jones.
Yeah.
How our team's going to cover both of those guys. One of them is going to get single coverage.
Absolutely.
And when they do, the other one's going to be open.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that doesn't benefit the tight end situation in Tennessee. We've got Jeff Swaim and Anthony Firkser, who they're going to be a tight end by committee is how that's going to work. Swaim is listed as the tight end 1 on the depth chart. I don't believe that. There was a lot of hope that Firkser was going to be phenomenal last season. And then people have talked high on him this season. Until that's figured out and we know who they're going to be using more often, I wouldn't be confident in grabbing either one of these guys on waivers to start. And if you happen to draft one of them, I'm sorry.
Bummer, dude. Better luck next time. It's just hard, though, with this tight end class. Like, they're so thin.
You get out of the top 3 or 4 tight ends, and there just isn't a whole lot for you there. Yeah. Now, where we do have a lot is in this Los Angeles Chargers Washington football team game.
Yes, absolutely. So Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen are obviously all smash plays. We'll see what Eckler's injury does for him if he's right in the bench this week. Hopefully he's okay for all of us who have shares of Eckler, but we'll just have to, he'll be a game time decision, honestly. Justin Jackson is up. Risky waiver wire ad.
Yeah, don't do it. I don't think either one of us are willing to vacate a roster spot for him.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And with Eckler out, if he is out, Mike Williams could be due for more volume in the passing game. And then Jared Cook is a viable tight end option this week as well.
Yeah, I'm happy with Williams. I'd probably roll him out in a flex. And if Jared Cook's your tight end, he's probably your only viable tight end because, as we just talked about, such a thin position. So you're rolling out Jared Cook this week.
Yep.
Washington is the funnest part of this.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, a.k.a. Fitzmagic.
A.k.a. Fitz
Tragic sometimes.
Sometimes he's had a long career, 17 years here in the NFL. So, I mean, this is either his 8th or 9th team he's played for. So he's had a lot of options for the Magic and the Tragic to happen, but I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. You're starting him over guys like Andy Dalton, Kirk Cousins, and Derek Carr. If it's between the two, Chargers defense isn't phenomenal, and he's got a lot of weapons. I mean, Antonio Gibson is someone you're definitely starting. J.D. McKissick, I think, has emerged as a really good flex play with Curtis Samuel heading to IR this morning.
Bummer.
Yeah, real bummer. Real excited about Curtis Samuel. Just had that lingering groin injury. It's probably the best.
Yeah.
Keep him out of practice, let it heal, get him back on the field full time. I think Terry McLaurin. I think we agree. Terry McLaurin is someone that we're wanting to start this week.
Yeah,
he's the wide receiver one in that system. Adam
definitely.
Humphries is a viable, probably flex play this week. I think he could factor in somewhere. But don't start him if you have better options. He's not a guy that I'm flexing over. A lot of players. A lot. I don't hate Logan Thomas in this game either. New contract. He's a very viable part of that offense in the passing game. I think he's a guy that we could see with 6 to 8 targets this week, and he might snipe a touchdown somewhere. So he's someone that I don't mind playing at all.
Yeah, me neither. Yep. I like Logan Thomas. Yep. Okay, we're moving on. Cleveland at Kansas City. Don't fear the Kansas City defense this week. We like Baker Mayfield as a QB1, obviously, or a super flex. He's great in that super flex spot. And then Nick Chubb, obviously. If you have Nick Chubb, you're starting him. OBJ and Jarvis Landry are going to surprise a few of you. I would have them in your lineup. I mean, a lot of people have been out or iffy on OBJ, but go ahead and start him. I don't see any problem with that. And then outside of the obvious, Austin Hooper could have a great day. Donovan Peoples-Jones is kind of a dart throw, but you can put either of those guys in your flex as an option if you are in a super flex league. And I think they'll help out with some of these lingering injuries,
Yeah, I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is a guy that as the season progresses, he becomes more fantasy viable. Week 1, though, I do think he's a good dart throw flex. If you just absolutely have nowhere else to go, he's someone who might still be available on waivers even today that you could grab for probably nothing. I would imagine you can get him for very cheap.
Right.
So now we're going to go to the easier part of this matchup because we all know what to do with Kansas City.
Obviously.
All of these plays are obvious. You're starting Patrick Mahomes. You're starting Tyreek Hill. You're starting Travis Kelce. Outside of those guys, I'm not touching anybody in this offense. And I know this is going to be controversial. I don't like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That said, you probably got him in the first 2 or 3 rounds, so you're probably going to start him. I didn't roster him anywhere for that reason, because I don't believe that he's going to be a viable part of this team. The targets, the red zone targets are Hill and Kelce. They're going to be all season.
1,000%.
Patrick Mahomes looks to those 2 guys to score. The way that Kansas City offense runs, CEH got used a little bit in the red zone last season. He just couldn't punch it in. Andy Reid's not going to forget that. So obviously you stick with Mahomes, Hill, and Kelce. Outside of that, don't start Mecole Hardman. Don't do it. Just don't do it.
Right.
Cleveland has a really good defense. Those 3 guys are pretty much going to get their touches no matter how good a defense is. Everybody else, I'm off on this week. And that brings us to Miami and New England.
Do you want me to talk about this?
Well, I'll start with Miami.
Okay.
Okay. So,
I have nothing to say really about Miami.
Well, I think we're both having a hard time wanting to start anyone here for Miami. Tua Tagovailoa, big if at quarterback.
Yeah.
I need to see more out of him. And he's more than likely not a guy that you drafted as your QB1 anyway. You can flex him if you need to. It won't hurt. I just wouldn't have him in a 1 QB league as my starter. Miles Gaskin looks nice on paper, but you can bet on Malcolm Brown kind of eating into his red zone work, and Salvin Ahmed's going to get carries as well.
Yeah.
Ahmed is a guy that this Miami coaching staff likes, and they're going to continue to use him. Things could change. Myles Gaskin could emerge as the true RB1 in that system. I don't think it's going to happen. We've got Will Fuller out this week, which Devontae Parker could be a decent play with wide receiver 2 potential upside. I'm flexing him, if anything. Jalen Waddle's a guy you could probably flex if you're in a tight spot. I don't love it.
We're going to love him later in the season.
We're going to love him later in the season. No doubt. He's part of that amazing class of Alabama wide receivers. He's going to be good. Just don't know that it's going to be immediately week 1. I also don't hate Mike Gesicki this week, but simply like we've talked about, there aren't a lot of solid options at tight end right now. So Gesicki's a guy, if you've got him, you're starting him. There's no way around it.
Right. There's no way around it. Moving on to New England. New England is interesting. if you have Mac Jones, probably not going to fire him up this week. Hasn't had a whole lot of time to figure out what he's doing in that system. Let's wait and see on him. Let's see if he's got a real game, or what he means, I guess. With that, we're probably going to keep Nelson Aguilar and Myers probably on our bench as well, it's an interesting place to be with New England being such a dominating team for the last 16 years to kind of be iffy on any of these players. Wouldn't you agree, Nate?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that Nelson Aguilar and Jacoby Myers are going to have some upside later in the season, but Mac Jones needs to get comfortable in the NFL, in regular season NFL play. This isn't preseason, and he looked great in the preseason, and I have no doubt he's going to look great during the regular season at some point. I just don't think week one's that time, which makes me nervous about Aguilar and Myers. Jonnu Smith, though, is someone I really like as a receiver here. He provides some of that short route, quick release type stuff for Mac Jones if he gets in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Anyone else with New England, or you want to move on to Green Bay and New Orleans?
Let's talk about the running backs just real quick.
Okay.
Damian Harris is a guy I'm probably starting.
Sure. James White.
And James White. It's probably somebody I'm firing up as well. I think James White more for the receiving work he's going to get out of the backfield. And Damian Harris figures to be a guy who carries the rock a lot. I mean, getting Mac Jones comfortable means running the ball in a lot of short routes. So Harris, White, and Jonnu Smith are guys that I like. Hunter Henry, I need to see how he fits into that offense. I think Jonnu's going to be the main pass catcher here.
Same here. Okay, moving on to Green Bay at New Orleans. We've got a loaded matchup here, guys. Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and Aaron Jones are all starts. Obviously, if you've got them, AJ Dillon seems a little bit risky for us here in week one, as does Randall Cobb and probably any other wide receiver there. Happy to see Randall Cobb back with Aaron Rodgers.
Definitely.
So it's a no for week one as he's getting his feet wet back in that system. Robert Tonyan could be a nice flex tight end play with a solid upside in PPR for sure.
Yeah, and he could snag a touchdown or two.
He could.
He had 10 last season, and he didn't come on until week 4, week 5. He had a huge game.
Yep, absolutely.
So look for Tonyan. I mean, Tonyan is a great play if he scores a touchdown. Outside of that, I mean, 3, 4, 5 catches, 3, 4, 5 points. You could get 10 points out of him without a touchdown. We'll have to see.
Yep.
And then, New Orleans is confusing.
So confusing.
Which is, they were so consistent for so long.
Yeah.
And now with Drew Brees gone,
Jameis Winston starting, and Taysom Hill, and that whole weirdness, like it's just all very confusing.
Yeah, I mean, the first question for me is how much is Taysom Hill going to be on the field?
Right.
Because that directly affects how much I want to play Jameis Winston. Just a ton of questions here. Yes, I did.
Sorry, we just got an Amazon delivery, so you hear that in the background. Okay, sorry, go on. Who are you talking about?
So Jameis Winston, Jameis Winston. Taysom Hill could snipe a lot of the goal line stuff. I mean, he could be getting a lot of that red zone work. This is a real wait and see for me. You can start Jameis Winston if you have to. I wouldn't if you have other options. You're also probably benching Adam Troutman.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I'm benching Taysom Hill. I'm benching Traquan Smith.
Yeah. Marquez Callaway, though.
Yeah, he's a great start in the flex if you have him, if you can get him. Obviously, you're starting Alvin Kamara because he's another guy you got in the first round.
Obviously, he's your first pick.
Hold your horses on Tony Jones. I know with the release of Latavius Murray, people are like, oh, Tony Jones, go get him. We don't know what his role is going to be in this offense. Sean Payton may have a completely different idea of what he wants to do, which is why they released Latavius Murray. It could mean more volume for Alvin Kamara. There could be other things that they want to do. This could be directly related to them wanting to get Taysom Hill more involved in the offense as well. We're going to have to see with that. And I mean, I think that's essentially everything you need to know about New Orleans in this whole matchup. Let's move on to the Chicago Bears and the Los Angeles Rams.
Okay. Don't start Andy Dalton under any circumstances. Do not start him. Do start David Montgomery. Do start Allen Robinson, but stay away from Andy Dalton. You can take your chances on Darnell Mooney this week. And Dalton, while he's an upgrade from Trubisky and Foles, he's called the pale squirt gun for a reason. Cole Kmet is listed as the tight end one over there. We'll believe it when we see it. We're fans of his, but we just don't know yet. And I would say keep him on the bench. As you guys, okay, this is great. So if you've ever seen, specifically me, because my studio is in our living room, we have our cat Beckett, who likes to make an appearance on every show. And I thought we were going to get away with it this time. He's upstairs napping. No, he just came down to say hi. So if you hear him, that's what that is. Where was I?
We were just finishing up with Chicago. I mean, I think we can agree that outside of Montgomery and Allen Robinson.
Yeah. You're not going to be starting Jimmy Graham.
Yep.
Yeah. No. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So now with the Rams,
Obvious.
This is all very super obvious. You're starting Matt Stafford. You're starting Robert Woods.
Yes.
You're starting Cooper Kupp.
Yes.
You're not going to start Sony Michel. You're not going to start Darrell Henderson. We don't know what that backfield's going to be like.
Yep.
That's something where you have other options.
Yep.
And Tyler Higbee's a guy. I'd throw him in my tight end slot. I'd throw him in a flex slot.
Yeah.
Because he's probably your only viable tight end option.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's about it for that one.
Okay.
Let's move on to the
running
Denver
short on time. So we're going to blaze through these with Denver and New York. With Denver, we're from Denver. We're Denver fans. Now that they've got a starting QB in Teddy Bridgewater, it's a little bit easier to figure things out there. You're not going to probably be starting Teddy Bridgewater unless you absolutely have to, or putting him in a super flex spot. He's not going to be awful. It's just there are other options out there. The smart running back play here is Melvin Gordon. We want to see what happens with Javonte Williams this week. Same with most of the rookies out there. I'm excited to see what he's going to do, but I'm not starting him anywhere this week. Cortland Sutton is back. We've got Jerry Jeudy. You're going to start either one of those guys, both of those guys, if you've got them. And then KJ Hamler, he's got potential upside as well. So if you have him, don't be afraid to throw him in there.
Yeah, Hamler's probably a flex guy for me.
Yeah,
but yeah, definitely. He's got some upside in flex.
Mm-hmm.
And then Noah.
But I think he's injured. So
no, he's 100. He's from what I'm reading.
Is he 100%?
He's 100%.
Okay.
And then Noah Fant's a guy with Teddy B. I'd probably start him.
Yep.
He's probably your tight end one anyway. So that goes without saying.
Yep. Absolutely.
So now the Giants, they're a mess. They've been a mess for a long time.
Yep.
Kadarius Toney, Kenny Golladay, Darius Slayton, and Evan Ingram are all banged up. Probably aren't playing Sunday. That leaves you Sterling Shepard as a really only viable pass catcher in that offense to start. Yep. That said, don't start Daniel Jones. Denver's defense is going to eat him alive.
Yes.
Arguably the best defense in the league. And then Saquon, we're hearing that he may be on a pitch count this week, but I'm still starting him because a pitch count for Saquon could be 75 yards rushing, a couple of receptions, and a touchdown or two.
Yeah.
So you're starting him. And now let's move on to our last matchup here. We've got Baltimore and Las Vegas.
Bad news this week out of Baltimore with Gus Edwards. He's probably done for the season with a possible ACL tear, which it sucks for him. Like he's waited 3 years for this opportunity and he's out. But so without Dobbins, now without Edwards, Trayson Williams is probably going to get the majority of the backfield work until Le'Veon Bell is suited up, ready to go. That'll probably be closer to week 2. Jackson should benefit here fantasy-wise. I mean, he was a start anyways. Andrews is always a go when healthy. And outside of those two and possibly Trayson, if you're absolutely in need of a running back, we're not starting anyone else in Baltimore. A lot of people are high on Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, but he burned me good last year.
He burned everybody good last year.
Yeah, so he'll ride the bench.
I'm okay firing up Marquise Brown this week just because Rashad Bateman is on IR. But don't expect much out of him. I don't even have him rostered. So
expect the big ego, not the big plays.
Yep. Yep. That's the nickname Hollywood.
Yep. All right, let's wrap up with Vegas here.
Vegas is a mess. So literally don't start anyone outside of Darren Waller. I mean, if you do, it's at your own risk. We're warning you that backfield is a mess, including Josh Jacobs.
I disagree on Josh Jacobs, but yeah, go ahead.
And you're starting Josh Jacobs anyway because you got him for second, third, fourth round.
Yeah.
So he's a guy you have to start if you drafted him. Kenyon Drake, Henry Ruggs, Brian Edwards, out on all those guys.
Yep.
Done. And that's it. That's all I've got.
Yep. All right, guys. We've taken 34 minutes of your time. Thank you for tuning in for our first episode of 32 and 32. You can find us here each week at 32 and 32 FF on Twitter. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook. We are all over the place. You can find me at Jen Polvogt and Nate.
And if you're here watching, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Good luck this week.
Good luck.
Let's start with a week 1 win, and let's march on to some championships, guys.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Have a great week.